Welcome back to Adventure and Repeat. It's glad to see you here. If this is your first time here, make sure you like the video, comment, tell us what you think, tell us what else you want to hear about, and subscribe. We got a lot of great content coming, a lot of great content on the channel, so be sure to check it out. So today, what we're working on is this cabinet right here. It needs to be trimmed down because right here where our new bed height is going to be, that's going to be right in the way of our head. So we're going to trim it down to bring it way back up here. So that's the next step in this RV bedroom remodel. So be sure to stay tuned. So first thing to do is plan it out. So here's what I kind of have envisioned. The bottom of this green line, I'm going to cut it off with the door. That way I can take this hinge and just flip it. And it'll be up here, still accessible, still easy to get to when you open it. That can just get moved up a little bit, so that's not a big deal. Or I can leave it in the same spot because I'm at the very bottom of the door here anyways. Marked it there. Once this door is out of here, I can get that straight line drawn. And then from there, I got it drawn down to the wall. I wanted it to meet the very bottom, so it wasn't hanging down or things like that, because then I wouldn't have to find a way to make a gap here. So that's the idea of that. And I can probably use a shelf, since it's got that same brown color wood, as maybe the bottom of that cabinet when I bring it up. So all I have to do is figure out a way to cover that trim piece edge, or that edge of it. That normally is just bare wood on the bottom of these. Just cover that with something. Maybe the brown paint that I'm going to use for the headboard wall to go on the bottom of that. That wood will fill in the middle, and that should be a good way to do it. This lower hinge can easily move up, and the upper hinge is still good in that spot, so that'll work. So all I will really do is move a shelf up a little bit. That shelf can stay there, and we just lose this bottom shelf. So the next step is to take all the shelving out of the bottom half because we don't need it there. We don't want it in the way. So we can start making cuts and trying to get this out of the way. So now everything is marked. We got the mark there. We put the mark on there. I took out the middle shelf, so that's out of the way. And I left the bottom in, all the screws in there so it can support it when I make the cut. Door obviously came off because that was in the way. So next thing to do is take our time and slowly cut it out. And there it is. We have officially separated the cabinet. Just like that. So now we're going to go just take a square. Check to make sure everything's square and straight across there, because when you're using an oscillating tool to make that cut, sometimes it can get a little wavy. There's not much room for a skill saw. And even then, you can still have a little spots where it kind of wiggles around on there. It's never perfect. So we'll take a sander, try to smooth it out as best we can, so when we put a bottom on it, it will be flat and straight and won't be too obvious. So now that's all prepped and ready to go. Next thing we have to do is we got to make a bottom, because not much good here without that. Could hang a clothes hat rack there and have clothes hooks for that, or short stuff like that, but we use this more as a shelf, so we're going to put a bottom on this. Second shelf that was here, we cannot use because on the side wall, you can see there, it actually has a spacer between the outer wall and the bottom of that shelf. We'd have to put another spacer in, and honestly, that will not work. It just won't look nice from the bottom. So what we're going to actually redo is reuse the bottom plate altogether. This is it looking from the back side. So it would go all the way to the edge and then end. So all you have is that little strip there on the very edge, which would be this quarter wall right there. And then you'd see this space along with this space right here. So what we need to do is that little piece and that little piece there, and same for the back corner. They need to be notched a little bit so they go up higher. So that way this panel can fit up in that pocket, and all we got to do is paint the tips of these edges brown on both sides to make it look nice. And then we'll still have the factory panel from the bottom. We'll just cut to length, use most of these inner braces, and go from there. Now you can see they're all notched up nice and easy, just like that. So we're just going to lay out the plan on the bottom there and cut that to size, and we'll reinstall it. So now with this bottom piece, take my screwdriver, going down the line and prying off this side, getting that off, and then I'll get that side off there too, so I can use this as my new base for the bottom of the cabinet. We'll cut this to length and we'll screw it in. This right here is our new base. Kept the same layout as what it was before. Still the same rib down the side, on the back, and down this side. Just cut it to length. Put some black on the edges so it looks nicer. Notched it on the corners where the trim comes down from the inside there, and on the back side. Next thing to do is reinstall it. So I'll probably put some trim screws across the front on this side, and then I'll use the screws from the inside of this. There, going into the wall. I'll put another one down here to make sure that one goes in the wall nice and secure there. And the bottom will be installed. And there we have it. Bottom's in. Used all the same screw holes across the back side that we had before, so it's nice and secure. Plenty of support for this shelf that's up here. The bottom of these we'll just paint brown when we paint the headboard, just like they did from the factory. And now we just need to cut up the door and make it fit, and we'll be done with this part. Here's what my shortened door looks like. Just cut it off flush at the bottom of that trim so we don't have that bottom edge down there. The handle was this way, so now I'm just going to use that hole that's already there and just index it around and attach it right there, so it should look the same. And I'll just have to remount the hinge somewhere over here. That one can stay there, and that'll end up going on there and looking something like that. I don't think it'll end up looking too bad, considering. So here we have our door is hung. Simply just took this handle right here, because it was facing down here. I flipped the handle over, drilled the hole here, and installed that. The retaining clip stayed in the same spot where it was, so I don't have to change anything with that. Still holds it nice and tight. And the hinge itself, the upper one is still in the same spot it was. The lower one, I just simply matched the gap up from the bottom so it'll look even. Just installed that. Made sure it was square on there between the door and the wall. And installed that, so now it looks nice. You can see it actually fits in there pretty nice. Nice and clean. And that's good to go. I'll probably paint the bottom edge of it brown with this when I paint the headboard. Other than that, it's technically done. And I'm going to end up pulling this headboard back off to paint it off to the side, because it's just going to be a lot easier than trying to tape around it. You can just leave it there and tape around it, but I just want to pull it off and do it. That way I know it's just done the way I want it to be. Have more time, it's easier to do, more space. I'm not doing it in a small enclosed area with a bunch of paint. Otherwise, that's about it. Now that we have all these holes in this wall from taking down the cabinet, that's the next thing to do, try to fill these in. What I like to do is just take like a regular plastic scraper, try to push and use the same material in as much as I can. Try to poke it in there, work it in there, and try to push some of the material back. Because the less I have to fill in, the cleaner it's going to look. I'm just kind of working at it, trying to push that back in. So when I go back with the filler, the wood filler that I'm going to have to do afterwards, it makes a smaller hole and less obvious. Just kind of working at it. Kind of going down the line. Kind of a challenge to do one-handed, but you get the idea. Trying to push it back as much as you can. Make it as least obvious as possible. In turn, you could always just end up painting over this entire wall or putting a different kind of wall board on there. Because obviously we went this far in, put a new headboard on there. You could just change this whole wall up or paint it and fill it that way too. It's personal preference, but we're just going to go down the line and push it back in as best as possible. Get some regular wood filler, probably a white or a tannish, something lighter color to fill in better, because light colors show up less. And yeah, that's about all we can do really for filling these holes. So here's what some of these holes look like. You can barely see that one there. That one you can barely see. If you really zoom back out, you kind of lose it. The white walls it's harder because you're going to see the dark holes. But this one's nearly gone. This one over here filled in well. The ones on the dark wall here, you actually have one right there. You can barely see it. But there's a dimple there. That's a hole. So yeah, they filled in nice. We had some down here. That's actually one right there. You can't even see it because they filled in nice. If you sit there and work at it enough, like on this, if you're working it from that way, then the top and around the sides, this wallpaper actually does stretch a little bit. And sometimes a little bit of heat helps you try to stretch it out and fill in the hole. So sometimes you can fill it in without having to do too much work with it. So to get the marks out of the wall, we're going to try some cleaners, things like that, to get that out of there so it's less obvious. Other than that, it's looking pretty nice. So cleaner did a great job just taking out the smudges and all that dirt from the original cabinetry on there. And what I did was I actually took some of these holes and soaked it a little bit with the cleaner too, and then worked it a little bit more and really started packing it in there and refilling it in, working with my scraper. And you can actually see this one right here, actually they're pretty much gone. So at a distance, just working at them a little bit more fills them in nice, and we don't really even need any kind of filler with it. So it's looking pretty darn nice. Everything is looking very clean. I think we're doing okay. So as you can see, this is the completion of the RV bedroom remodel. So, hope you like what you see. Like the video, comment, tell us what you think, tell us what you want to hear about, and subscribe. We got a lot of great content coming, a lot of great content on the channel, so be sure to check it out. And remember, have a great adventure.